Well, good morning, everybody. What a beautiful December day in Washington, D.C. I'm pleased to see you all here, and I'm even more pleased to talk about Vision Zero, which is necessary in not only in our city but in cities across our nation to keep people safe. We know over the past 2 decades we've seen annual traffic fatalities in our city reduced. And reduced very significantly, but still too many people are dying as a result of traffic accidents. In the meantime, we have more modes of transportation, more people using our roads, more people using our sidewalks, more people riding the bus, more people taking advantage of our bike lanes, more movements, period. And that's good news. That means that our city is vibrant, our city is growing. But with all of those new movements, we just this year, we've seen 24 fatalities related to traffic. Any loss of life is unacceptable, especially if there are things that we can do systematically to prevent those losses. That's why we talk not about reducing traffic fatalities, but getting to zero. And that's why we sign on to President Obama's Vision Zero initiative. Our goal is to get to zero deaths and zero injuries by the year, zero deaths and zero injuries by the year 2024. And we can do this by being steadfast in our investments and steadfast in implementing those investments. That way, we create safe streets, we protect our most vulnerable residents, and we prevent dangerous driving. So we know that we have work to do. We have our charge laid out for us. And today we want to talk to you in more specifics about what our Vision Zero action plan is. For several months, Director Dormshow has been leading a task force made up of D.C. government agencies, community advocates, and residents. Their planning was driven by a simple question: what will it take to make people safe when they walk, bike, and drive in Washington, D.C.? They developed a plan that incorporates what we all know, the 3 E's. Engineering, making sure the roadway environment is conducive to safety. Educating the public, as well as enforcing the laws that keep us safe. So we added another E, evaluation. How do we evaluate the work that we're doing and figuring out how it leads to safety? So I want to thank Leif. I want to thank Greg Billing and Waba and Joe Reiner from All Walks DC, who contributed to the development of our plan. And I want to especially thank residents who are going to and fro. I tell the folks that work for me all the time that nobody knows how to engage their environment better than the neighbor. So they know where the raised sidewalk is. They know where the blind spots are. They know the streets where people repetitively speed at high rates. They know when the trees aren't being trimmed or when the lights are too dim. So we cannot create an action plan without the residents of the District of Columbia. So we know that there are some operational things that we want to start to put in place today. We identify laws and regulations that need to be updated. And the things about laws and regulations, they too get public input. So sometimes we get it exactly right, and sometimes we'll change it based on the input we received. We'll work with the members of the council, the Pedestrian Advisory Council as well. The council recently held a hearing on Vision Zero and the legislative package that goes with it. So I look forward to their cooperation and their support as that package moves forward. I was at a meeting earlier today in Montgomery County where we're talking about transportation in the region. And I can say without a doubt that everybody recognizes that if this city and this region is to reach its true potential, growth, substantial growth, you know what I tell people? Everybody can't drive. And if everybody recognizes that and we want people to move to other modes of transportation, it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we're doing everything possible to make people safe when they walk, when they bike, when they ride transit, when they look for parking spaces, when they drive in Washington, D.C. And that is what our action plan is all about. The members of this community have been especially dogged about Maryland Avenue and the traffic that it carries. The commuters that come into our city, and we love people that come into our city, but we want them to follow the rules as well. And so I want to thank all the members of the ANC commissions here. There may be adjacent commissions here. I know that Phil Timjian, is that right? Is the chair of ANC 6A. Phil, where are you? All right, thank you, Phil, for your leadership. And I also, are there other ANC commissioners here? We'll give them a round of applause anyway, because we know that this has been a very significant issue for them. I can tell you, having knocked on a lot of doors on Maryland Avenue, that the issue that came up time and time again was the speeding, and Tommy will know this and know this well, that families want to feel safe. And the other thing that they will tell you is DDOT's been working on this a long time. Isn't that right, Tommy? I know you haven't been here that long, Leif, but just pretend like you have, because the residents are tired of waiting for action. And so we're at Maryland Avenue, but we could be on Martin Luther King Avenue, or we could be on Alabama Avenue, or South Dakota Avenue, or Georgia Avenue, where I also hear from people about, hey, you know, Maryland Avenue is not a highway. We live here. Slow down. And so these are the types of concerns and considerations that lead us to the work that we will do in this action plan. So there's nothing like a good plan, but there's nothing like some action. And so that is what we want to be able to report to you in a meaningful way, so that we don't return here. And somebody says to me, DDOT's been talking about this for a long time and nothing has happened. So I can't promise you overnight transformation, but I can promise you that we will be able to report to you on feasible plans related to these actions. So with that, I am pleased to introduce you to other speakers, the first of which will be our director of the Department of Transportation, who's been doing a great job on some really tough issues. And he's going to talk about the department's steps in this direction, and also acknowledge the many great people that he's been working with on the Vision Zero Task Force within the government. And I know we'll also hear from WABA. Leif?
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Bowser has made it very clear to her agency directors that the Vision Zero plan requires all hands on deck. Over 30 agencies came together to identify the most effective strategies and the most urgent remedies for hazardous traffic conditions in the District of Columbia. While planning for Vision Zero, we conducted surveys all over the district. And the residents told us that 45% of the people who we spoke to knew someone who had been killed or seriously injured in a crash. 45% told us that they had had that type of tragic experience on the roadways. What does this plan say? What does Vision Zero look like on the ground? That's really why we're here today on Maryland Avenue, because there are elements of Vision Zero incorporated into some of the interim safety measures that we've taken here. This corridor has been the site of many serious crashes where vulnerable travelers have been seriously injured. It also has abnormal rates of speed and chronic speeding in both directions at very high levels above the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. It's well documented. It's something we've been working with the community to address for many years, and we've got we've got more improvements on the way. Our action plan includes a range of temporary, intermediate, and permanent engineering treatments to calm traffic on this street and streets like it across the district. We will reclaim public space and add neighborhood amenities that simultaneously reduce vehicular speeds. Our plan also prioritizes using better data. We are already analyzing crash statistics and resident reports, but we will get additional information that will help us understand the true nature of risk on our roadways. We're looking at how the posted speed limit and actual vehicle speeds, the number and width of lanes, the number of people driving, biking, and walking, and the geometry of the roadway will affect the frequency and severity of crashes. Using this data, we can tailor our enforcement actions by adding additional photo enforcement technologies and other types of safety mitigation measures. We can determine if greater outreach or education and awareness is necessary for a particular hotspot, using the data to really tailor the types of interventions that we can make for positive change. We can also install new infrastructure, such as the new traffic signal that we have here at Maryland and 10th that was just operationalized in the last several months. By taking into account the volume of all travelers on this street, we can see that this new traffic signal, street markings, this street closure where we're currently situated, will allow for amenities like the bike share corral, a safe crossing, shorter crosswalk connections here at the intersection. We're really trying to take an interdisciplinary approach to solving these traffic issues. That's the direction that the Vision Zero plan is taking us. The safety trend is moving in the right direction, as the mayor discussed, but we have a low but persistent number of fatalities in the city that we need to move towards zero and ultimately to zero. Okay, no one was injured, don't worry. After careful review of data, interagency communication, and public engagement, we have an action plan that has 68 discrete and specialized interventions that range from policy, enforcement, data analysis, and engineering, all to improve safety. It's time to use the action plan to hold ourselves, DDOT, and all of our agency partners and community partners and associations responsible and accountable for the lives that we want to save on the city streets. We intend to meet the vision of this plan in 10 years. With that, I'd like to invite one of our stakeholder partners to the podium. Mr. Greg Billings is the Executive Director of the Washington Area Bicycle Association, just one of many groups that we've been working with since February to develop this plan, and someone that we will be working with on a go-forward basis to implement the plan. Greg?
All right.
Good morning. It's my honor to stand here today with Mayor Bowser and DDOT Director Dormsjo for the release of the 2-year action plan for Vision Zero. Today is a major step forward for Mayor Bowser's commitment to ending traffic fatalities and serious injuries in the District of Columbia by 2024. I would like to acknowledge and recognize the extraordinary leadership of the Mayor and Director Dormsjo in bringing together a diverse group of city agencies to collaborate on the Vision Zero action plan. DC joins a number of cities in the United States, including San Francisco, New York City, Portland, and Seattle, in their commitments to ending traffic death. The Vision Zero action plan redoubles our efforts to make the streets safer and friendlier for pedestrians, bicyclists, transit riders, and drivers alike. On June 11th, I stood at the corner of Wisconsin Ave and 37th Street in Glover Park. Minutes before I arrived, a delivery truck had turned on Calvert Street, striking and killing 79-year-old Peggy Ruth Dickey, who was crossing the street in the crosswalk. It was the second pedestrian fatality in DC in just 2 days. I was in Glover Park that evening for an ANC meeting about a DDOT street calming project. Vision Zero became very real to me that day. In 2024, 26 people were killed walking, biking, or driving in DC. And over the last 5 years, 7 bicyclists were killed, and over 1,200 were seriously injured while biking in the district. We talk about numbers, but we cannot forget that each number represents a person who leaves behind a family, friends, and a community stricken with sadness and grief. We can improve our safety culture and end this pain. To achieve Vision Zero, we must challenge the status quo. Vision Zero compels us to confront the system and its designers that allow traffic deaths to be a cost of doing business. Data-driven enforcement and education will target the most dangerous streets and roadway behaviors. And our streets must be engineered for the safety of all roadway users. People make mistakes, but our mistakes should not be deadly. Street crossings for pedestrians must be made safer. We need a network of protected bike lanes and low-stress bikeways, and speed limits must be lowered and enforced regularly. We can no longer put convenience over safety. The Washington Area Bicyclists Association, with our 5,600 members and 70,000 supporters, is fully committed to achieving Vision Zero. In 2016, WABA will organize 8 community events, 1 in each ward of the city, designed to engage our neighbors on Vision Zero goal. We will organize 4 neighborhood safety audits teaching residents to critically examine their streets and the communities and make recommendations for safety improvements. Additionally, we will host 4 safety street community events and workshops for families. The District of Columbia can achieve Vision Zero by 2024, but not alone. Every day, hundreds of thousands of commuters and visitors from Maryland and Virginia enter the district. Regionally, 425 drivers, pedestrians, and bicyclists are killed annually. And people who walk and bike represent 25% of all regional traffic fatalities, a disproportionate rate. Engineering, enforcement, and education must be consistent across jurisdictions. We are calling on elected officials, transportation officials, communities across the region to follow Mayor Bowser's bold leadership on Vision Zero. WABA will organize a regional Vision Zero summit in 2016. We will work with a diverse group of stakeholders and organizations to host the summit. We will learn about DC's progress on Vision Zero, learn about best practices from other U.S. cities and international cities, and continue the call for a regional commitment to Vision Zero. I would like to take this opportunity to formally invite the Mayor and Director Dormsjo to attend the 2016 Vision Zero Summit. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you to Mayor Bowser and Director Dormsjo for your leadership on Vision Zero. Eliminating traffic deaths in the District of Columbia by 2024 can be achieved. WABA stands with you today in committing to this goal and working with our leaders in the district government to achieve zero traffic deaths and serious injuries. All residents in DC should be able to freely move throughout the city for work and play without the fear of injury or loss of life. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I want to thank Greg and all of the leaders, past and present, and members of WABA. I've been at this long enough to remember in this region when we did not have bicycle racks on metro buses, when there were no bike lanes, there was no bike parking, and there certainly was no capital bike share. And so we have come a long way, and not only saying that bicycling is good for recreation and health and fitness, but bicycling is a necessary commute option and a viable commute option in a great city like ours. So let's hear it for WABA. Let me also recognize some folks from my team who are here. And when you get a chance to download the action plan or look through the action plan, you will see all of the members of the Vision Zero task force within the government. But let me acknowledge MPD and Assistant Chief Green for his representation, as well as Chairman Sharper of the DC Taxi Cab Commission, Director Tommy Wells, and your former council member, Tommy Wells, and director of the DOEE. the award-winning DOEE and Tommy and our DGS team just went to Paris, where they accepted an award on behalf of all of us, recognizing how green we are. Eric Shaw, who's the director of the Office on Planning, and I also want to recognize Gretchen Brumley, who is the OSSI Director of Student Transportation, so all the young people who are getting around in the mornings working with OSSI. Alexis Taylor, our Office of Disability Rights, and I know that David Glasser is here, who is representing the Department of Motor Vehicles. So all of the directors, let's hear it for them for their work on this project. So let's take a few questions. We'll start with the press, and then we'll answer community questions. Yes, Martin.
Thanks, Mayor. So this would be a question for you and also the director, who
Sure.
looks very sharp in his orange vest, by the way. I have to hold this microphone, apparently. So this is a 2-year plan, but we know that the aspects of the plan that are most time-consuming, potentially, are the street redesign aspects of it. For instance, this corridor has been, these white bollards, the interim measures to improve this corridor, this has been in the works for many years. Planning, environmental approvals, construction, all that stuff takes a lot of time. How are we going to redesign the streets that need to be redesigned in 2 years?
I don't think we ever said that we were.
Well, it's a 2-year action plan, so how long really? The director wants to take a crack at that?
Nobody said we would redesign every street that needs to be redesigned in 2 years. I can't answer that question right now. Yes.
So, sorry, I'm just getting out of the way of this. We have a problem with enforcement in the city when it comes to traffic laws sometimes. For example, I cycled down here. I counted 7 vehicles that were parked in bicycle lanes. What are we going to do when it comes to enforcement to make sure that Vision Zero specifically comes to fruition?
Okay, Leif, you want to talk a little bit more about enforcement strategies?
This is certainly a multi-pronged approach, and it's not just a matter of building our way to safer streets in terms of design and construction projects. So we do have to focus on a number of different initiatives. If you look at the plan, we've got some concentrated enforcement that DPW is going to be doing, in particular going after the habitual offenders of parking violations. So there's a effort to boot more vehicles and use the boot and release systems that will hopefully be a deterrent to the type of parking violations that you observe. So DPW was probably one of the most vocal and active participants in this process from the very beginning.
And, from a data-driven perspective, can you explain how that will help enforcement? What kind of data-driven approaches will be taken to specifically enforcement?
So with regard to parking violations that create sight distance issues, and that's a major concern as you approach an intersection. If someone's parked illegally and they're blocking the view of a motorist or a pedestrian as they enter an intersection, that's a highly hazardous condition. That's actually one of the contributing factors to many of the pedestrian injuries that we've had along this corridor. Stepping up enforcement for folks who are chronically violating our parking regulations is a component of the program, as is using data and sharing data with NPD to cite automated enforcement cameras that can drive down the number of red light running incidents and speeding occurrences that we have in the city. So we've had a lot of success in that program, but there's a whole range of granular data points that we can use and crowdsourcing information that we can get from residents. So we're not just looking backwards, we're actually getting the kind of situational awareness of the public, as the mayor mentioned, to cite our enforcement efforts, whether they be done by our teams that are going out and proactively doing enforcement, or with the assistance of the automated systems that we have.
Director, is
And
it
let me-
possible to speed up projects?
I was going to add something, and then I'll call on you when when it's time for the next question. To your point, I wanted to add that a lot of my own kind of anecdotal a lot of my own observations about blocking of bike lanes have to do with loading, and we kind of have a one-size-fits-all approach to loading and unloading in loading zones, and I know that we need to rethink that, and we need to make sure that we have loading and unloading policies that make sense across the district. Yes, Adam.
While we have you here, can we get your thoughts on the streetcar, which is making progress just a couple blocks away? Is it making progress?
Yeah, I'm told it's making progress. Yes. So we did start PRO. Okay, we started PRO this morning. I think this is the second time we've been in PRO in the history of the streetcar. In PRO, pre-rail operations, it is Leif can talk a little bit more about the term of art, but basically it is the stage in the process where the streetcar runs on a schedule as if it was carrying passengers. Leif, I think, will be able to speak to the last PRO process and what was learned. Then what happens when that is 21 days? Then the state safety office has an opportunity to say whether it's a go or it's not a go.
If this does work, is this just the beginning?
You give me that again, Adam.
If this does work, is this just the beginning? You had always said you wanted to right-size the streetcar. If it works here, will it expand?
Well, my point in right sizing was to get H Street running, extend H Street east to Benning Road, and extend H Street west to where it makes sense. The plan was to extend it to Georgetown. Some people think it needs to stop. Some people think it needs to stop short of Georgetown. But I got to tell you, I want this to work.
Sure?
Yes.
All right. Leif, can you add a little bit more about just kind of what's going on with the program right now?
PRO.
Sure. Thanks for the question and showing up for this event and asking that question, Adam. Yes, I know. You're just
weather
passing
is
by, I'm
nice.
sure. So the pre-revenue operations phase is something that is a FTA requirement. It is the last major milestone before a transit operation can host passengers. This was attempted before in 2014 under the Gray administration. The PRO was aborted. They were unable to complete the PRO and essentially had to go back to the drawing board to make some major changes, which this administration has been fixing over the past 11 months. And we've been busy getting everything in order in terms of the infrastructure, the vehicles, training, SOPs, a huge laundry list of activities that we got in part from the APTA peer review that was performed, but also from the intervention that I've made with new team members. So this 21-day period is vitally important. We've got all the equipment, personnel, technology, and planning in place to get through this 21-day period. If there's a need for an additional day or at the end, it can be extended. You can have replacement days, but the intent is to run a simulated service for 21 days and then submit all the data and the evidence of what occurred during that 21-day period to the State Safety Oversight Office and allow them to evaluate whether you get a green light or not. So this is a major milestone, but it's not the final step. We've got to get through an SSO approval. Ultimately, the FTA weighs in and concurs or rejects what they get from the SSO, and then we welcome passengers. But we intend to complete this PRO. That was the marching orders I received from the mayor were to get it done, fix it, do it right, and I'm not starting something that's not going to finish successfully. So this is day one, 20 more days to go.
Yes, sir. Are there any? Let me just make sure I've gotten all the press questions. And I can
Preservation. This is the Capitol Hill Historic District. This street is one of the original Lavac streets of the Lavac plan. All of the Lavac streets are on the National Register of Historic Places. When you close this street, did you go to the DC Historic Preservation Review Board and get them to review it before you close the street? Because it is a historical street.
Okay, I'm not sure about the law that relates to the closing of the street. Sam, you want to come up and speak to the question, or Leif? Okay. See, you're shaking your head. Get up here.
We did. We went through the Section 106 process in consulting with the historic parties, and that's something that will keep going as we go through the design process here. We got a number of really good comments on how we think about the design going forward.
So there was a lot of concern about closing Lavac streets.
Absolutely.
Good question. Thank you. I'll make sure that that stays on my radar as we move forward. Yes, sir. Please state your name, sir.
Andrew Giambroni from Washington City Paper.
Okay.
The action plan mentions a pilot program to reduce speed along 2 major arterial streets in the district. We're wondering if the district has identified those 2 arterials and what that sort of looks like fleshed out.
We have not identified those 2 arterial routes. We have identified the criteria that we would apply to determining which of the routes that we would select. So that's more news to come. Well, first of all, there's the whole principle of a road diet. Okay, so that is the removal of travel lanes to address the travel demand of the current times. And so one of the major issues that we have with speeding is there's too much width on the roadway, so it kind of invites acceleration. So we look at parking, we look at transit service, we look at lane width, and we look at signal timing to factor in whether or not we can lower speed limits, narrow the roadway, the travel lanes, without creating congestion or any other unsafe conditions. So those are the types of factors that we use in our determinations. But we'll be announcing the pilot candidate corridors in the future.
So let me just get back to the question I think that Martin, you asked a little bit earlier about how we speed up projects. And it's certainly possible to speed up projects. Usually that requires more resources or it requires pushing something else to the side. So part of Vision Zero is not to take away from, planned road work, not to take away from planned sidewalks, not to take away from planned alley work or tree work, but to enhance the work that we're doing with all of these aspects in mind. And then this team, this task force and Leif, looking at this plan, if it does mean that we need additional resources to speed something up or add to the capital program, that's what the information that I will present to the council as part of my ongoing budgets.
What about just the reality of red tape? For instance, it took like a year to get a traffic signal over here.
Well, some people call it red tape, or you might call it the requirements of the FTA and DDOT, so that when we spend the money, I don't know if this is a federal aid project.
This corridor will be a federal aid project.
Right. So what that means is if we don't follow the rules, we don't get the money. And sometimes it takes time. Yes?
I just want to thank you so much for this traffic light. Our dog always tried to pull us across it and it was so scary. And I don't have to worry. It's so safe to cross.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Yes, sir.
From 11th Street right over here. Madam Mayor, thank you for weighing in on some of our local issues here in this immediate area and on 11th Street, and for your email response on Thanksgiving. It's wonderful to have you engaged. We're working with DDOT on this very traffic calming issue on 11th Street.
Okay.
Since the opening of the 11th Street ramp to Southeast for I-695, our traffic has probably doubled on 11th Street. as the motorists can zoom down 11th Street on their GPS and their map to get to that new expressway entrance. The street is not engineered for that. I think there's a real public safety effort there. And as you mentioned, sometimes these projects and assessments can be expedited. Any help DOT can give us, and your office can give us for safety on 11th Street will really be appreciated.
All right, let's get some specific follow-up with you and your neighbors. And Frank, where's Frank? Okay, there he is. Okay. And I failed to acknowledge somebody that I want to make sure we say thanks to for his involvement in the Maryland Avenue project, and that's Todd Hedenbach. Is Todd here? Thank you, Todd. Oh, I was about to call on you. Well, thank you for your leadership. And you have a question?
Well, I was going to say that I live along Maryland Avenue with my 7-year-old and my 4-year-old. We walk along this corridor here to go to the playground there. I walk the other way to take my kids to school. So we're along this street every day. And I wanted to thank you and Director Dormjo and the DDOT staff for making some of the changes that we've seen already. It has made a big difference. It's made a big difference when we walk, when we bike, when we drive. The street's a lot safer. And I'm a lot less nervous with my kids when I'm crossing the street. So thank you. I know that there are a lot more plans that you have in the works, and we've been, working with DDOT for a while, and it seems like those projects are finally starting to move forward. So thank you, and we look forward to maybe another press conference in a year or two.
Let's do it, or sooner, to Mark's point, or sooner. And Todd, just so you know, I've some other commissioners and neighbors have contacted me and are thrilled with this intersection, but express your sentiment that more is needed, and we're going to stay focused. I'm going to take a couple more questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, local resident, curious about buses. Narrowing the street is going to make buses bigger in relationship to the space for them, number one. Number two, buses have a tendency to speed as much as commuters do. And number three, I've heard rumors that some of the bus stops are going to be moved from where they are now to different locations as part of this plan. I wonder if you could address those.
Sure. So if we narrow the streets, will there be room for buses? And the answer is yes. So we wouldn't be able to narrow them to the point where it wouldn't be safe for vehicles that typically travel. And Leif I appointed him to the Metro Board. And from time to time, and Tommy will know this well as having been a ward council member like I was, that bus speeding is something that happens too frequently. And what I have found, though, is that it's a management issue at Metro when supervisors are made aware of problem corridors that we see changes in that behavior. So we'll work on that. What was your last question?
The location of the bus stop.
Oh, moving bus stops.
So that's a great question. We are now in the process of engaging a design consultant for this project. And one of the things that we're going to have to do is have open engagement with the public about different alternatives. So the first step would be to develop about 30% plan documents, and then come back. And I've already talked to Phil and the other ANCs about setting this up. Coming out to the community, essentially giving you a workshop environment to give us your local intelligence about the pros and cons of a particular a bus stop location. We're not going to put it to a vote, okay, because we would end up probably fairly divided and we'd be paralyzed. But we're going to make sure we listen early and often as we develop this project. That's just one component where we're going to need the benefits of your local intelligence. I mean, figuring out the plazas and open space, street furniture. Even parking issues. We're gonna have to benefit from the residents and the businesses along this corridor, so we get a solution that's built to last and that we're proud of. We're not going to just do this in a conference room with a bunch of engineers that have no experience with this area. And on top of that, I live 3 blocks away from here, so I come through here most mornings running and have a familiarity with with what's involved. So I think we're going to make sure we get this one extra special right.
And one thing I know about kind of the location of bus stops, and as you get around the city, you'll probably recognize that a lot of bus stops were placed in areas for the convenience of cars and car movements. And the next thing you'll notice is that now there's schools and stores and people live in places where they haven't gone to school or gone shopping or lived before. So we really do have a need to kind of make sure where the bus stops now actually fit people's lives and are more centered on people who are walking and getting on transit. Okay, I said I was going to take one more. Adam, can I take you last? Okay, yes, sir.
I know the issue about the traffic is real
You're
good.
going to have to speak up, dear, so I can hear you.
My issue is with the bikes
Okay.
and pedestrians being struck down, maybe not killed, but severely injured. What happens in that case?
What happens to what?
People riding bikes.
Yes.
They run into you, strike you, you're severely injured.
Oh, what happens when there is a bike in the pedestrian conflict?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it's a good question. I'm not sure if MPD, that's going to be an MPD question. If there is a conflict between a bike and a pedestrian, your question is there some kind of ticket? What's the enforcement? Okay.
Good morning. There are restrictions in certain areas of the city, the central business district, where bicycles cannot ride on sidewalks. In areas like this, they can ride on the sidewalk, but they're mandated to ride in a safe manner. If it comes to our attention that a bicycle has struck a pedestrian and he's operating that bicycle in an unsafe manner, he can be cited for that.
Stating that, like stop signs, there are signs that actually states that where it can be well seen.
The central business district is documented. There are signs that are posted. I think Leif might want to comment on throughout the city as far as signage for bicycles. But there are signs throughout the city that indicate certain laws as it pertains to cycling.
Hold on now. You've had 5 questions.
Thank
Hold
you.
on.
Thank you.
I can't give you all the questions. All right. Yes, sir. Yes.
You talked about the 3 E's, which are now 4 E's, which is good.
That's good.
And that they're necessary for creating a safety program like this. In the experience that we've seen around the city, the one that's most immediately effective is always enforcement. It can be targeted where there's a specific need. It can be dispatched on a very dynamic basis. What are we going to do in the very short term to make sure that we're stepping through those responses, that the enforcement resources are there first, diving into these things, and then we work on the educational opportunities, that we run through these in a hierarchy? Because right now it sounds like there's not a lot of support for traffic enforcement around the city. There's no traffic enforcement dedicated division.
Well, I don't know that I would agree with that. We've been pretty aggressive about speed enforcement in the city, for example. And I dare say that we've seen some change in driver behavior. And if the amount kind of ticket revenue that's coming in as a result is an indicator, we've seen people slow down. So we have been pretty aggressive about that. And I'm also very supportive about making sure that we're identifying more dangerous places where people are speeding and putting in more enforcement. So I don't know what if you're thinking about having just people give tickets, because we have found that is not the most effective use of our resources, but to the extent that we can use technology, that has been very consistent and effective enforcement.
You specifically have noted problems with vehicles occupying bike lanes and things like that.
So around parking enforcement, if we're talking about parking enforcement and kind of double parking, I think that is more people-focused enforcement and being consistent. But the loading to me is not so much an enforcement issue, but a policy issue. Basically, we have a set of circumstances. Yeah, I'll talk to Leif about this later, where people they want to comply with the law, but they find it difficult to comply with the law. And when the law is impossible to comply with, people will break the law. And then guess what? Then your people who give tickets, they say, this doesn't make sense, so I'm not going to give a ticket. And so you see the problem that you have. So I think that is just one example. There are probably others where the policies have to make sense. And if we want people to be able to go shopping and dining, that trucks have to have a place to load and unload. So I don't know if you want to say anything more about loading and unloading, because he will have our most up-to-date thinking about where we are.
Yes, the mayor's right on point about the conflicts that are created with commercial parking and loading and unloading services. One of the things that we've been focused on, and we're the beneficiary of a federal grant from the Federal Highway Administration, is some pilot studies of off-hours delivery in some commercial districts. And we've got, I think, 2 or 3 commercial districts that we're looking at. They tend to be in the downtown area where there's those off-hour deliveries aren't going to create problems for residents. So we're actually really trying to strike a better balance and get those commercial deliveries taken care of when we don't have other parking demands and other transportation demands. So the mayor's right on. I don't even think I told her about that, but she was right on point that that's an issue, and it creates curbside management concerns, and we're not ignoring that. We're actually trying to get in there and try to figure out if there's some other techniques that will reduce those types of issues.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you. Yes.